So there is a lab one multi-user PKT file that's in that day one folder. So this is just going to show you what the multi-user is going to look like. So I can connect this a 24 port switch. Doesn't have to be a layer 3 switch. It can be any layer 2 switch. It makes no difference. So I can connect the 24 people to it. If I have more students than that, I can just put 2 switches together. You're 48 students if I need to. Really doesn't matter. So what we're going to do on here is we're going to connect to this 2 different routers, or excuse me, 2 different servers. The top one, we're going to set up HTTP services, web services, and then we're going to set one up to be a DNS server. So again, this is set up in the multi-layer thing. You don't have to get that fancy. I'll show you just what it is. Okay, so I'm not going to use that one at all. Let's just build this one from scratch. So you can open up a brand new packet tracer. And I'm going to build that topology that you just seen basically. So I'm going to grab a switch. I'm just going to get that 2960 switch. I'm going to go into my user devices and put 2 servers on it. And then cable those together. You guys that are doing it remote, you'll need to build one for yourself. Since you can't remote into me, these 2 guys will be able to remote into mine.
Sure. It's weird. I can't find the switch on mine.
So you sit on be sure you can collect the top row right one and the bottom row second icon.
Gotcha. You configure that with fast Ethernet 0-/1. Sorry, the links for the drop downs. Because when you can make the connections, the menu pops up. Oh, it is.
All right, so I'm going to configure those 2 servers for what I need it to do. So I'm going to open up the top one, the one that says that we're going to make into the web server. I just called it the www.ccna.com. See what that looks like when we see the back. I don't necessarily need anything in there. First thing I'm going to do is go to the desktop, go to its IP configuration, and I'm going to give it an IP address on that network that we just created. So for me, it's the 172.16.123, and I'm going to give it an IP address of 200. And we give it a 24-bit subnet mask. Vault gateway, we don't really have to have one, but well, I'll just use .1. And the DNS server, we're going to make it 172.16.123.254. All right, now I'm ready to be sure I set up the services. So I'm going to go to HTTP. So I'm going to turn it on for both HTTP and HTTPS. You see it's already got some stuff already built in there for you. I'm going to go to the one that says index.html. That's always the first page that's going to open up when you go to something, and I'm going to click on the edit button just so we can see that it really does something. So that line that says welcome to packet tracer opening whatever, I'm going to get rid of that part of it. And welcome to Scott's web server. Here. just so it's got a little something managed to it. Bottom link down there has a save button. Yes, I'm going to override it. All great. So that's all that I have to do to that server. Now I'm going to go over to the DNS server. Go to the desktop. It's IP configuration. And it's IP 172.16.123.254 was the number we gave it. 24-bit subnet mask. Default gateway. And the DNS server is itself. So the web server we gave .200, the DNS server we gave .254. That'll be the same for everybody. Then I'm going to go over to the services. This time I'm going to go down to DNS. It's turned off. I'm going to turn that service on. And then in the name, first thing I'm going to type, www.ccna.com. It's an A record. IP address, 172.16.123.200. And then click on Add. It puts it on the record at the bottom. Something that they have added that I really am glad that they've done. They've added the IPv6, so we got quad A records now, but we also have reverse lookup that we haven't been able to do before. So instead of that, I'm just going to say CCNA.com, leave off the www. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make it a CNAME record. And now the host name is www.cisco.com. So I just told CCNA.com points to www.ccna.com. And be sure it's turned on. We are good to go. So we're ready now. I hope you're to that point. We're ready now to set up the multi-user. So I'm going to go on the one that I just built up to the top, go to extensions. We're going to check a couple of things. First of all, the listening ports. So I can see I'm listening for multi-user is turned on, port 38,000. The IPC is turned on to 39,000. Not that you need that one for right now, but the multi-user is the port that we're going to use. Back to extensions, and I'm going to go to multi-user and then go over to listen. So this is going to tell me all the IP addresses on my computer that I'm listening for. So notice that 172. Wherever it went to. Oh, this is for my actual computer. I'm running the. This is my network address. Okay, so you guys should be on the 10 network also. So that's going to be that's what you're gonna connect to. But you guys at home, notice that you got the loopback address. So you just type in local user :3800 or type in the 127 number. Give it a password. I just gave it Cisco. And then you can tell how you want your connections to come in. You can prompt you to accept them every time. I usually just say, go ahead and accept them always. So I know that my listening is turned on. I am good to go. So now I'm going to go back over to my first network that we built. I've already put an IP address on that router. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom on the top row, far right icon. And the only thing in there is a multi-user. And again, whatever peer that it wants to name it, makes no difference at this point. I'm going to go ahead and make a connection in there. So I'm going to go from my 002 that I've programmed out there. And I'm going to go over here and tell it now, create a new link. So now when I click on the multi-user connection, it's come up and it's telling me, hey, it's listening. No, I want this to be an outgoing link. And it's outgoing to my computer, to that port 3800. My peer network name, I'm going to call it peer 0 or peer 1, excuse me. And its IP is Cisco. Notice it turned blue. Did it make a connection? Well, if I go back and look at the this one over here, notice it made somebody else has already got peer 1. Yep, peer 100 is running there. So there's peer 1 that I called it. And then I can go in on that side now. And I'm going to go to here and link that to that one. I'm going to grab here, port 2, link that over there to 100. So now you can see I've got a green icon going across there. Let's go in and check it and be sure if everything did do what it's supposed to do. Yep, so I seen that port 2 came up. So IP INT brief is the first good one to look at. Yep, I can see that 172 address that I just put in there is up and up. Can I ping 172.16.123.200? Can I ping the web server? Yes, I can. Can I ping the DNS server? Yes, I can. So I put that DNS server's address on my PC. So I'm going to go open up my PC. It is in that totally different 200 network. I'm going to go over here to the web browser. Let's go www.ccna.com. Let's go out there and think for a minute. Or find the DNS server, come back to us. Eventually it will get there, I think. Well, let's check, be sure we got a connection. First of all, let's go to command prompt. Can I ping 172.16.123.264?
Question. So if you have the topology set up and the switch is going to peer the multi-user and there's a red exclamation, is there something that
okay, so that let me go on my end and yep, I'm not seeing it connected to me.
Get it. Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks. For a peer address.
All right, what did I not do right? Let's look. Can I? All right, so I can ping to my default gateway. Ping to the other port of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can ping there.
Service. So we're gonna turn DNS service on.
See Joey out there now.
Uh,
See Joey's trying to connect to it.
which I'm trying to set up the IP for the DNS server.
Yeah, DNS server is 172.16.123.254.
And we turn that on in services.
Yes.
So is the terminal the other server, the CCNA.com? Okay. Okay, I got a green octagon on mine appear too now. I mean green triangle.
Won't that go through?
Okay, all mines are in the green.
That's what you want.
Okay.
Green means you're good to go. So from your router, see if you can ping the DNS server
Okay.
and the CCNA server. If those work, then go to your PC and see if you can ping them. That's where I'm stuck. Mine's not wanting to ping through for some reason.
You said ping one of the servers, you said?
Yes.
Okay, let's see.
Go through.
Hey. Mine just, I think it's working.
Your ping?
Yeah, I'm pinging
Okay.
the internal server.
Okay. See if you can go to your PC one and see if you can ping it. Or your
Success rate,
PC.
success rate was 0%.
Oh.
I'm trying to
Nobody else will ping it.
Let's try. Oh.
Nobody knows how to get to them.
Mine's not coming through either. I tried doing it from the PC itself and the regular command prompt. Keeps timing out.
Yeah, that's what mine does. And it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Ah, man. Okay, wait. Mine. Fixed it.
They had to change the default gateway.
Put the default gateway to be whatever your gigabit 002 interface was.
Okay.
So that knows to send it back to you. Is that working? Let's go back to the web browser. And that opened it up.
So let's see the
Immediately,
zeros.
you can see things that we typed in there.
You said the
If I
zeros,
just put,
number 2 gigabit.
yeah, the 002, gigabit 002.
Okay.
Host name is resolved. Sometimes those little pages that's in the packet tracer and the web server, they're kind of just generic, whatever. You can use any HTML and CSS in there. You can change the colors, make it blink, and anything you do on a real web page, you can make this do the same thing.
I need your help for setting
It really makes them
0.02
cool.
gigabit. Is that the connection? That kind of threw me off a little bit.
That's the one that you set up to the multi-user. Your 172.16, 123.101 should have been what you put in for the address.
Oh, I put 10.1.10.
172.16, 123.101 is your number.
Okay.
Hey, this computer too old.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
So 2. 172.16, 123.101.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then make that the default gateway for the two servers.
Okay.
And again, you can go in and set up routers and elaborate networks on this side. And then again, something as simple as just put a switch out there and everybody's networks then all connect together. So it's just like you had 100 different computers and all you did is put a switch on there and tell them to connect. Does anybody have any questions about what you can do with multi-user or suggestions about things you've done with it that you might share with everyone?
It's Steve. I've been following so far. I'm good.
Okay. So is everybody good with that one? You need more time to work on it? Ready to move on? We'll be using lots more packet tracer stuff throughout the day, along with our equipment. I'm done with mine. I don't need them. I did put in that folder or another folder that says build a network, and this is the topology that I give students the first day of class. Man, that looks all confusing. Well, all you got to concentrate on is what we just did. One router, one switch, one PC. I've just already got IP addresses set for them, so they got five different groups that they can connect to. So do a group one day. Usually first time that you do a router and switch stuff, it takes you about 2 days to talk through the configuration and get everybody caught up. All right, now let's do the second group. Do it on your own. It'll take them pretty much the whole day. And then by the time we get to the third, fourth, and fifth, they can do probably all three of them in a day because it's just repetitive. Same learning those commands over and over and over. I like doing that right up front in the year, and then I start reading in the curriculum, and we get down, all right, we're going to do these things. Oh yeah, I know how to do that already. Their confidence goes up. The curriculum makes sense to them. So the one thing, I mean, I live and breathe Cisco. Don't get me wrong about that. But when you start doing it very disjunct, and all I learned about is going in and how to put a host name on a computer, not very exciting just to go through and do that kind of stuff. So build out that configuration so when they get there, oh yeah, I know how to do that. And then when we get to the end of it, all right, we've done that. Well, here's another big lab that you can do with, and every command that you know, you got to be able to put those back into it. And everything that they've done along the way just makes sense. You go through the curriculum a lot faster. They understand it a lot better. Like I said, then using RIP for the first semester, just so they got some routing protocols that they can get through. So time they get through with the first semester, they can do all that IPv4, IPv6, add servers to it, multi-user over to somebody else that's got 5 more sets of routers, you know. So time you get that, they may have 50, 60 routers all connected together and being able to ping end to end, and some pretty big network stuff that they can get going. All right, we're going to start working on the lab number 2 in that first day folder. Several things in there for you to look at today. I've got some things about talking about radius and TACX, how you set up a radius server, how you set up the TACX server. You know, if you got those extra devices. One thing I do with all of my rack stuff at home is I use end devices. I just put Raspberry Pis at the end of them, and then it works just like a device. They can ping, they can do whatever. But with the Pi, you can set up all the services that you want to. So on it, there's the free radius server, so you can set all that up pretty easily. A couple of commands, you got it all set up. Pis can be set up so they're the DNS server, the DHC server, all the email services, FTP, TFTP, all the stuff that services that we have in Packet Tracer, we can do all that same stuff on a Raspberry Pi. So they're very, very cool devices to be running all that kind of stuff. So I got a document in there about how you configure that to run that on the Raspberry Pi. One I want you to open is the one that says Layer 2, Layer 3 security measures, not the Packet Tracer, just either the PDF or the doc, either one. So what I've done with, there it is. What I've done with this document is start off with the stuff that we normally go through and talk about in CCNA. So we talk about port security, what things we need to go through and set up with those, the operational modes, and then I go through just a very generic configuration of what that's going to look like. Set up the IP source guard. Tell you a little bit about what that's going to do, how that's going to go through and set up, benefits, whatever, and then basically how you set it up. Part of the DHCP snooping, IP verify source, VLAN, DHCP-snooping, up and running. And then how you do the actual DHCP snooping, all the benefits, all that kind of stuff. It's basic configuration. And I go into the dynamic ARC inspection. Again, all the things that we already do inside of the CCNA stuff, just one document to look. Here's where it gets a little bit different. So whatever page that is, page 7, So we're going to do the dynamic ARP inspection configuration on multi-layer switches. So you've got to set it up just a little bit differently on the multi-layer switch to make it work. So now you're going to go about and do that, setting up the VLAN, that stuff, and then setting up BPDU guard and BPDU filters, what their benefits are, and configuration steps for them, very general. One we don't ever teach about, storm control. So how we monitor, again, the people that are trying to, ping us constantly or send us the denial of service, that type of stuff.
Oh, DDoS.
DDoS.
Yes.
So you get a few of those, you tell it how much and what type of level, shut it down. Stop that from happening. Root guards, one we don't teach about. So how we go in and tell it from the spanning tree, which ports are the root ports, don't let it change them. Okay, only let those root ports send those and receive the BPDUs. Loop guard, we don't ever set. So that's another one of the spanning trees. So you set that per interface. It prevents alternates and root ports from becoming designated ports. And then ether channel guard. Simple way to set that up. So again, those are all things that don't work in packet tracer. We can do the basic ones that CCNA teaches us. Beyond that, you have to do that on the real equipment, real switches to make that work. And then one of the biggest one, I hope you teach some type of a 802.1x. Okay. So from teaching your security, this ought to be a big one that you go through and set up. So how you set up the radius and that stuff. And terminology. So what is the supplicant? What's the authenticator? And the authentication server, what those devices do inside your network. And again, about the methods that you can do it, how to go in and designate VLAN guest and restricted VLANs. So if somebody comes in and they log in on the guest account, you don't want them getting on the same network as everybody else, how it's going to send them to a separate VLAN automatically. If they go in and they're not logged users, so it's going to send them to a restricted VLAN. So what those are going to look like, set those up. And then it goes through about how you go through and set up the TACACs and the radius servers, what they're going to look like. Again, just basic stuff that you might know. Page 15 then. This is a cool one that I wish that we taught, dynamic VLAN. So when you go in and you plug in and you authenticate, instead of having all your ports are set up to be in, these are all VLAN 10 ports or VLAN 20 ports. I set them to just be dynamic. So when I plug in, it says, oh, your user, whatever, you get to be on VLAN 10. You're a teacher, you're on VLAN 20. You're the administrator, you're on VLAN 30. So ports dynamically get assigned out to everybody that's going to make it work. So just a switch port, access, VLAN, dynamic. That wouldn't be hard to teach. Change that one little word at the end of it. And then it'll talk about how to set up the servers and all that kind of stuff. But again, you got to have all those servers to make it run. So I have a lab that goes through this that doesn't do it up here, but there's a lab later on that'll teach you to set up the internal radius server. Have any of you done that before? That's something that I don't know the older equipment does, but all the new 44,000 and up series routers you can do is you just set up internally, just like we set up usernames and stuff to do SSH. You set up that same list of names now becomes the radius list. And within that list, when you said it, you said it. That user is VLAN 10. This user is VLAN 20. And so it's all done internally. You don't have to have another extra device out there to make that work. Private VLANs, probably something that you don't do too much with. So private VLANs is just another way to segment out what we're doing. Just because I'm in VLAN 10, well, I can have a private VLAN just for my Cisco class. I can have a private VLAN just for, my web creation class. Even though they're all in the same VLANs together, I can segment that out even further. And so this will tell you a little bit about that, setting up what's known as the secondary VLANs to be isolated or community VLANs. And then we're going to have one that's called the promiscuous ports. So it's telling us how we are going to assign ports and which ones they're going to go to. So it'll tell you a little bit about those, what they're going to do. We'll do a lab on those things, what their configurations are going to be. Not that much different than what we already do. Things like switch port mode, private VLAN. Switch port mode, host authentication. Same thing for the community VLANs. And then the error disable functions. So I hope you'll do something, teach your students about that. So when something goes into restricted or disable or shut down modes, what do you have to do to get them back up and running? Well, you got to go into the port, shut it down, no shutdown. And that, if it does it again, then you got to go do the same thing. That's a pain. So this is going to show us some of the ways that we can go through and just make it automatically come back after a little bit. So this is going to show you some of the things that we can set it up to do. That BPDU guard, violate that, port shuts down. Well, this can bring it back up. And of our port security violations that we make it do, we can bring it back up. The link keeps flapping up and down. Well, it'll bring it down after a little bit. Loop errors, loop back errors, ether channel misconfiguration, DHCP snooping. Here's that rate limit. PAGP. And then MAC address violations. Some of the things that we can do. So it'll talk about the recovery manually way, or how we can go through and do that error disable recovery cause. And here's a list of the causes that it will do depending on what we're going to make it do. ARP inspections or port security violations, P-secure violations, what we put on them a whole lot. And then you're going to go to and tell it recovery interval, how long you want it to be. Make it wait 300 seconds. So 5 minutes, and then it automatically enable itself again. Make it wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, 20 minutes. So somebody just can't come in and plug in, when it's so short that they can unplug and 10 seconds later they can plug right back into it. But, give it some time like that. But very cool thing for you to go through and do. And then I've just put some other things that I didn't talk about that are things that we can do. Some of them we already do, setting up your antivirus situations, putting your endpoint security things on there, physical security things that you can run into it. And then I start in here's where you got some basic lab things to do that you can go through and set up with it. Second lab then goes into a little more security things. Going to again, port guards and root guards. And then going into layer 3, IPv6 security. So how to do that same thing, but doing it through IPv6, setting up our trust and ARP inspection is a little bit different. And then some of the things that we do from a layer 3 standpoint, our access control list. Probably don't do the unicast reverse path forwarding. Routing protocol authentications. So we're going to be doing a few labs of them. Make up some time-based ACLs. Here's that ping rate limiting. So if it pings too much, shut them down. Don't let them continue to do a ping to you. Traffic filtering, first hop security, IP source guard. Is that IPv4 or IPv6? So some labs that we're going to do through the layer 3 that you can go through and set stuff up, authenticate to. So lab 5 then goes through just authentication, the big 3. So doing that all back to one router. So setting up the RIP and set up the IGRP keychains, and then setting up through OSPF. And then a lab that's doing the 802.1x. This is doing it through the free radius server. So if you've got that device, then you can run that. If you got a Raspberry Pi, most people have those laying around nowadays. What you're going to do to go in and set that up. Okay. Set up our DHCP. That's all it is on the router. So I can set up 4 different subnets. Set up different client lists. And I had to set up so student 10 is going to be a freshman. He's going to log into VLAN 10. Here's the sophomores. They're going to log into VLAN 20s. Juniors are VLAN 30. Seniors are VLAN 40. So here's the same lab, but we're going to do that through an internal radius server. So you got to be on real equipment again to make that part of it work. Ways to get that to go in and set up. So lots to do in that lab. I'm going to give you some time to work on that. What is it? Oh, it's already noon. How about we take a lunch break? Come back about 1 o'clock, and we will start in and work on this lab for a little bit. So let's take an hour for lunch, and we'll see you back here at 1 o'clock. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started again. So welcome back for the afternoon. So we're going to start off working through the lab, through the document that I was showing you right before we break for lunch. So lab number 2, the layer 2, layer 3 security. Start off, read through some of that. You may not be familiar with some of the things that are in there, how they're set up, and then start in doing as many of the labs as you can. Probably the 2 biggest ones for you to work through, if you're going to be limited on time to get through it, be sure you get through lab number 2 and lab number 7. Those are the two big ones. Again, you need real equipment for those to make them work correctly. But if you got that, see if you can work through those. I know lab number 1 you'll be able to do in Packet Tracer and setting up the authentication and that type of stuff you can do in there. But definitely lab 2 and lab 7 are going to require you to have real equipment to do that. So once you go ahead and get started on those, I'll give you about let's say an hour to work through those, and then we will come back, talk about it. If you find these are first draft of this particular lab document that I've created. So if you find mistakes, things that don't work right, whatever, please let me know, and I can make those corrections and get them back to you. So you got good document to share with your folks when you need to. So if you see anything like that, please let me know. Otherwise, try to have that as much of it done as you can by 2 o'clock, and then we will meet back then.
Just trying to find out, is there any recommendation if we don't have live equipment to actually use for this?
You can build most of it out in Packet Tracer. I would say 50% of it is going to work in Packet Tracer, but when you get to those new things, Source Guard and Root Guard and Loop Guard, those things are not going to be in Packet Tracer. But the majority of what we do is in there, and so you just build it out in Packet Tracer. Nearly all of it's on switches, so there's not a lot of configuration that you got to go through and do to get it set up and get it going.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, I hope you had a chance to get through a big part of that lab. Any questions about stuff that you were doing? All right, I'll take from your silence that everything is okay. All right, so the next couple of labs, just a little fun one that you can go through and do. This lab number 3. This is just using a Packet Tracer to do some decryption stuff to do. So again, there's a document for you to look at, but pretty much just open up the Packet Tracer that's attached. Give you some information about it. Again, same information that's in the document listed down here. And it's just going to tell you what you have to do, where to click, what to look for. And then you got to go through some steps to do some decryptions. So you get to to access the secret web server and get to the directions that you need down at the end of it. So this one won't take you long, 20, 30 minutes. So once you work through that, it's a little easier than the last one was for sure. And I'll see you back here about 2:40. All right, since we're running a little bit low on time today, there's several more labs in that day 1 that you can go through and do. There's a subnetting demo and a static route demo that you can do. There's several things in lab 5, 3 different labs about switch operations that you can look at. There's a timed exercise that I like to do with students after they've been doing this for a while. I'll give them X amount of time to make a configuration, and then just keep narrowing it down. I try to get it so they can do a complete configuration in less than 7 minutes. But again, you can play around with that, see what you can do. The one I do want you to work on for this last hour of the day is the one that's the Lab 7, the initial 3405 wireless LAN controller. So go through and see if you can get that one set up and go. It'll all work in Packet Tracer. So when you get into there is a document for you to look at, and then there is a pre-built Packet Tracer in there that you can do this one with. So it can all be done inside of Packet Tracer itself. So once you take about the next hour, work through that, and then we'll come back about an hour from now, 3:45, and wrap up our activities for today. See you then.